Thank you so much, Marsha. So glad to be back with everyone once again, going over some of the things that can help us as we're navigating through the COVID-19. It's very important that as we all begin to navigate through this process of our life, that we build on some of the strategies that we're going to talk about today and that we talked about last week also. So being able to address this topic is, to me, I think for this one is at the heart of what all of us are experiencing. And that is all of us are dealing with some levels of stress, some levels of anxiety as we are navigating through the COVID-19 and being in this place of lockdown, as we would say, quarantine is another word, or stay safe at home order that we all are living under. So we just want to talk about it, jump into it, get into it. Of course, I'm not here to discuss anything medical as we process through this, or even diagnosing, therapeutic in that way as a practitioner, which I do. That's not here. We just want to open up for discussion and talk. And afterwards, we will open it up for question and answer. So let's talk about what it is. We want to look at stress. So we have our spheres of influence when we look at it. Naming your emotions is very essential for your well-being. So as we are getting through this, it's understanding some of the emotions that we all might be experiencing, whether it's feeling anxious or feeling stressed out or worried or even fearful, low, lonely, overwhelmed, having those helpless or hopeless feelings, feeling frustrated or irritable, and guilty and angry. So these are all emotions that any of us can be experiencing, or we could not be experiencing. It just depends on us and how we are processing this time of being placed inside. Remember, it's okay to feel discomfort. It is. Accepting distress is often the quickest way to feel immediately calmer. So accepting what it is, I would say in that acceptance part, it's crucial to know what it is. What is it that I am experiencing? Am I experiencing all of these, or am I experiencing one? Or do I have a new type of experience that maybe I have never had before in my life? And I believe with this situation that we are all experiencing, it is creating new ways of thinking and new spheres of influence for stress within us. We have different types of stressors. I want to talk about an auto stress, because with this type of stress, this is one that we look at and we don't really see it for what it is. And I want to add a little bit more on it so you can gather some understanding. So we talk about auto stress, and it describes what happens when our body's stress response goes on for a long time. So we have all been experiencing this stay at home, safe at home, however you want to call it, for the last 3 weeks. We're not sure when it's going to let up. They haven't told us yet. And on top of that, there are some people that might be experiencing anxiety about going back to the office. So this is what they mean when they say long term, long time. So we're in this, it's on us. Now, what makes this difficult for all of us is the fact that it wasn't something we chose. Plus, this is something now that the insight or the end time for it ending, we don't know when it is and what's going to be the outcome once we are out of it. As I talked last week, there are some behaviors that we are beginning to live in that we have to pay attention to that once we come out of this, and that is being around people in stores or in places where now we've built up a hypervigilance of being on guard with them. And this goes back to what they're talking about, the long term. So this is like an autoimmune disorder that hijacks the immune system, attacking the body instead of protecting it. Auto stress transforms our stress response system into something that attacks self rather than protecting it. So what we're doing is we're like attacking ourselves because we're not protecting ourselves. Think about it. From now on, when you go in the store, how are you looking and dealing with people? Are you paying attention to people who are close to you as they walk by you? If you're standing in line, are you looking down to see if the person is standing on the blue line or the red line, or if they're violating those boundaries? Or if you go to get some fruit or vegetable or something, a person might reach over you. We are now what? We're hypervigilant, and that's what this is talking about. So we have to pay attention to this part of our stress that can begin to create anxiety in us. And we look at different levels of it. So if you're suffering from high levels of distress triggered by this pandemic, you might continue to feel this way even after this has passed. So some of the things that are happening as we begin to think about it that some people might be experiencing now that can continue, and that is chest tightness and feeling like you can't breathe. That's the part of the anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. Muscle tension, aches and pains because of stress, headaches, difficulty sleeping, restlessness and inability to relax, heart palpitations and digestive issues. All these things can be going on because of stress. I work closely with the fire and EMS and with law enforcement, and I do some of the classes at the academy, and I go over the 4 different types of stresses, and we look at these 4 different types. Number 1 is general stress, and we know when we start talking about stress, all of us experience stress, but it's just how we deal with the stress, and then stress might be different for you versus me, so we all have our way of looking at it. So all of us deal with general stress, and then we have what we call critical incident stress, and that's the type of stress where we start beginning to develop different types of behavioral habits that can cause us to experience burnout. It also can begin to cause us to experience compassion fatigue when we're in that type of stress. And then we have what we call the destructive type of stress, and that's the stress where it begins to accumulate over and over and over, and it's an accumulation of stress that now is lingering on us. And we do call that accumulative stress also, which can lead into signs of PTSD. We know when we start looking at these things as we are transitioning through this COVID, it's understanding our levels of stress and anxiety and how they are affecting us. If I'm having some of these things, muscle tension, headaches, digestive issues, I need to go back and pay attention to my stress. What's the triggers? Is being locked in with cabin fever, not having my own workspace where I used to have before because I had this big desk and I was able to find everything. Now I've had to condense, and I'm not used to looking at one monitor because of all of the stuff that I have to deal with. And on top of just looking at one monitor, I don't have things in place the way I used to. That can cause people stress. That can begin to create some of these situations, restlessness and an inability to relax. All that can go into it. Top of that, I'm here in the house. I have all these external problems that I'm facing, such as not my privacy, too much noise. All these things are going on. Or another stress for some people could be the fact that my life was centered around being around people. Now I don't have that because I can't go into the office. So now I'm sitting in here and I'm lonely. And I don't like being by myself. I like being around people. So those can create stressors. And I'll tell you another big one that we're living through is having family members who might have contacted the virus, and now they're suffering with it. And now maybe I even had a loved one who lost their life from it. So all these things are stressors that we're going through and beginning to identify how to deal with them. So anxiety. We know that anxiety is the #1 disorder in the United States. It is not depression. There are over 15 different types of anxieties. And when we start understanding anxiety, what it is and what it is not, it helps us to begin to navigate through this. Now, today, I'm not talking about anxiety disorders. I am talking about just the fact of what stress does that can create anxiety symptoms, because we all can live out of anxiety symptoms and not deal with the disorder. Because when I look at people who have road rage, some of them are exhibiting anxiety symptoms because they are allowing something or someone that is external from them to create an internal response that's not even inside of the car with them, but they're allowing that person to control and manipulate them based on what they're going through. And that's creating anxiety. So when I talk about anxiety, it is best described as an unhelpful thinking pattern we experience when our mind fixates on threats, uncertainties, and negativity. So during this time, those 3 words can affect all of us, because this COVID, this virus, is creating feelings of fear and worry, because the threat is I could die from getting sick. The uncertainty is if I go outside and I'm not wearing a mask or I'm around people, I don't know if I can get it. And the negativity that comes with that is that now I'm going to die because I contacted it. So all those things create what? Anxiety. So we have to pay attention to that. And that the furthest thing from the truth. However, we have to pay attention to how we are thinking. So anxiety can occur on its own as a response to stress or a trigger stress. As a response to stress, it can intensify the stress and in worst cases lead to panic attacks. And that's what can happen when our anxiety levels rise. Now, it doesn't mean that a person has an anxiety disorder, because all of us can experience an attack. And I tell people too, there's what we call good anxieties. And just like there's good stressors. One of the good anxiety that we can actually do sometimes is prior to this is we were going on a trip. We had anxiety. We were anxious because we were excited about going. So we would look at the trip, we would go to the book, look at it, pull it up on the internet. We're getting excited. We're on the plane, on the boat. So that's good anxiety. Being able to understand it during this time, I think is so helpful and critical as we move through this. It's important to understand that you cannot control anxiety from occurring. This is your brain's automatic survival mechanism. So it's dealing with what? Chemicals inside of our brain, neurotransmitters, norepinephrine. We're looking at different ones like serotonin, dopamine. So it's those things. What matters is learning how to respond to anxiety helpfully so that you don't get carried away by it. So during this COVID and during this locked in phase that we're all in, it's paying attention to our emotions that's creating responses that now goes over into anxiety. That's what's important as we transition through this stress and anxiety phase of COVID-19 and being locked in. That if I am experiencing worry, fear, hopeless feelings, helpless feelings, how do I balance them where they're not causing me to feel stressed out or have an anxiety? That's one of the key questions I am getting a lot is what's the balance in it? And I would say the balance in it is making sure that you are having factual information that is fueling those thoughts of uncertainty and negativity. So what are my thoughts that's encompassing these emotions that's going on? Let's look at some examples what to look out for when we start having some of these experiences. Threat scanning. That's when your mind searches the environment for what you fear. So when we look at some examples of it, is frequently checking your body for the corona symptoms or obsessively checking the news. So this is one of the things we talk about that we want to be careful of. Threat scanning is often associated with your mind assigning meaning to harmless events. Now, when we look at the corona, this corona is not a harmless event because it is very serious. But what they're talking about is taking information that's not true and applying that information to you that once again, you are self-defeating. So you have to pay those things attention. So being able to balance that. Catastrophizing goes right in line with that because I don't want to catastrophize or awfulize a situation. And that's when our minds jump to worst case scenarios. Making, as we say, making a mountain out of a molehill. My chest feels tight and my mind tells me that the coronavirus, that I'm in danger of it. Those are catastrophized thinkings. Or my mind gives me the mental image of losing all the people in my life or that I love. So all these things are things that we have to pay attention to, that it doesn't create stress and anxiety in us. So being realistic and having a balance is key in this. Emotional reasoning. That's when our mind tells us that our emotions are reflecting reality. While our emotions can act as helpful messengers, they often aren't reliable. So those are the things that we have to think about too. When our mind tells us that our emotions reflect reality. So emotional reasoning. I feel scared, so I must be in danger. I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong. So all these are emotional reasonings that we have to work through and pay attention as we transition through this period of COVID-19. Fortune telling. That's when my mind interprets predictions as facts. So I'm telling myself, I'm going to be stuck inside for months on end. Okay. That could be reality, but we don't know if that's factual because we haven't got that. Because right now we're only 3 weeks in this. So we don't know if it's going to be until August or until September, October. We don't know that. So we don't want to go into fortune telling, which also goes back into awfulizing. My mental health would keep deteriorating and I have to go back on my meds. So when we look at these kind of statements, we have to pay attention that we don't want to foresee something or say something to ourselves that may not be realistic. So we're paying attention to our emotional reasoning and all the other things that can hinder us with anxiety and stress. So we see this, and then the other one is hypothetical thinking, or we look at the worry in it. It's important to note that worry is completely normal, which it is. However, during this time, we have to pay attention that when it becomes unhelpful and it hinders our focus, and now we're not able to focus on the things we need to because we're so worried and we're so afraid. So we have all these things we are building on. So we see when we start talking about it is, I know I'm following all the guidelines, but what if I spread the virus? So those are worries. What if someone gets too close to me at the supermarket and I catch it? So all those are hypothetical worries. So being able to watch those things and think about those things as we process through this. Practical worries can concern things you do not have control over and you can't help. You be more proactive. So the way we do it is that you have to pay attention to how you are balancing what's going on with you. If you're very uncomfortable with uncertainty, you're likely to be prone to hypothetical worry. So uncertainties, that's the inability to have control. When we look at this process of going through COVID, none of us have control over it. The only thing we can control is what? Is ourselves and what we do. So we know it said to wash your hands. I can control that. We know it said to stay inside as much as possible. We know we can control that. If I happen to go to the store, I know I'm paying attention. I'm taking hand sanitizer with me. No matter what I touch, I'm sanitizing my hands. I'm paying attention to my distance. So those things we can control. And that's why when we start looking at how to dissipate our worry, is paying attention to us. So we look at this other part too when we talk about it. What can I control? What can't I control? And I believe this is important when we start looking at this part of the COVID, because all of us in this stage feel like we don't have control. You know, you look at the people that's protesting. Their protesting is we've lost our ability to what? To control ourselves. So now the government is telling us that people are upset about that. So we look at what's in our control, what's out of our control. The way to stop hypothetical worrying is being able to understand this. So what's in my control is building my resiliency, following latest information and advice. That's in my control. Focusing on what's important to me. All these are in my control. Eating well, exercising, seeking and offering support. All these things are in my control. What's out of my control is other people's decisions, other people's health, the government's action, school opening and closing, because that was a big one for us here in Florida, is understanding what is the governor going to say about going back to school. There were people that were really up against that, and I can see why. Because if I have kids in the schools, I wouldn't want them to go back to school, especially if I hadn't got and I'm not feeling okay about this thing really not, being as serious as it is. And now my kids could be exposed to someone or something within the school or someone coming. So those kind of things can affect us. Our neighbors' problems, traffic. So understand what's in your control versus what's not in your control as we process through this. Another one too is maintaining structures and routines that can help increase a sense of control and diffuse overwhelming feelings. So I'm going to give you some tips on some of the things you can do to help de-escalate your stress and your anxiety. Number one, schedule regular breaks for yourself. Take time to mindfully drink, your teas or focus on your breathing. These things are important as we go through this. Write a weekly goals list. So identify what you need to do to achieve your weekly goals. Break tasks down into smaller steps and cross them off as you go down to maintain a sense of progress throughout the day. This can help decrease your anxiety and stress while dealing with work right now. Identify 1, 2, 3 most important tasks. Create a daily most important task list, and this helps you to prioritize your most important to your urgent tasks. Once again, you're looking at things to do what? To de-escalate your stress and your anxiety. Review your crossed off items at the end of the day. So now you're taking conscious thought on what you achieved throughout your day that can help decrease your anxiety, okay? Write down a daily list, the night before. So I would say this part is important for, people that are stay home prior to this, and now everybody's in the house, and prior to this, such as spouses, they had all this time and they don't have that time. I would say this is one of the important ones for them to do, and that is to be able to have a to-do list, but do it the night before. You might find that being able to start work straight away helps increase your productivity. Also, this practice can help you clear your mind and switch off in the evening. So write down, take daily lists the night before, so that way you have it down and you can kind of go through it in your mind and think about what it is you need to do. Tidy your workspace at the end of the day, almost as if same thing you're going to do if you're in your office for those people who do that. But I would say if you're not into that, try to do it as a way to do it, to decrease your anxiety of coming back the next day, or even while you're at home, looking over at your workspace like, wow, kind of separating that. Decide on a regular sleep schedule. Please, you have to sleep. When it comes to improving sleep, research suggests that maintaining a regular sleep schedule is of high importance. So I know some people are having a hard time sleeping. Some people are exhibiting, some night tremors and things like that because of their inability to sleep. But practice trying to be on a schedule. This will help you also in decreasing your stress, which we know that. Try to do a list app. So if you have something that you can do, and you prefer a digital format such as Google Keep, try to do a map like that to help you process through the day. Create an end of the work ritual. So we all had those rituals prior to being in this position of working from home. Whether it was when I got off of work, I went to the gym, whether it was when I got off of work, I went to the store, or whether it was when I got off to work, as I drove home, I just de-escalated myself, or even stopped by, the beach or something like that. We have to continue to maintain those areas that we did prior to this. So if you can create an end of the work ritual, that would be ideal. Something that we never take into thought until this time. And that is we all have a work time. And that's from, some people work 7:30 to 8:30, 7:30 to 4:30, or 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or 7:30 to 4:30. We had our different times that we worked. I would say right now, develop that same thing. You're in the house, you can still stay on that work time. When it comes time for you to get off of work, when you were in the office, if you didn't have anything that you had to complete, you left there. You have to continue that same mindset and that same style of living. So create an end of the work ritual for you right now. Don't let your work day go by and you haven't decided, I'm going to stop work here, I'm going to continue, you have to cut it off. You don't want to keep living in it, okay? Create a weekly family tradition. Some people have already done that, but this is another thing that people can do to help you navigate. Some people had it already set up on Fridays. That's when their family did certain things, on a Wednesday night, on a Saturday night, continuing those things. The last two, when I look at them, are crucial for our ability to lower our stress and our anxiety. That is, be kind to ourselves. During this time, we must, it is a priority that we take care of ourselves. Mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, physically, physiologically, we have to take care of ourselves. You might suddenly have a lot more on your plate. Be mindful of your inner critique and remind yourself that you can only do the best you can do. Do not beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Know what you can and what you can't do. Don't try to overload yourself with so much stuff, or even the fact, as we are processing through this, know your limitations of what you're doing at work right now too. Because if you're not paying attention to those, some people continue to work even if they were in their office, they would stop working and go home. So please pay attention to those things. And the last one is cultivating your gratitude. Gratitude has a plethora of benefits, including reducing stress, anxiety, boosting mood, strengthening your immune system, improving your sleep. Gratitude, just that little word of being gracious, having that part for myself and for other people, practicing compassion for people during this time. And that compassion for people carries over into me. So we look at these things. Prior to this wasn't something that sometimes we even thought about, but remembering how to be compassionate, and that will take us a long way as we go through this. So I would say when we look at this, our Baycare student and employee assistance programs are there, but we know when we look at our colleges that we serve, and we want to thank Pensacola College, State College, that's why they're in red, because they're new within our health system. And if you're on here listening, we're here. We want you to know that, reach out to your EAP programs or your SAP programs that you have, because this is where you can find help. And as I said last time, know that you're not in this by yourself. We're all here in this together. Don't try to operate in this. If you're feeling anxiety or stress, know who to reach out for, know who to talk to, know where to go get help. As I said, there are over 15 different types of anxieties. We don't think about that as anxiety being the number one disorder, which it is. The number one actual disorder is called specific anxiety. And so when we look at our anxieties and how stress during this time can create more anxiety within us, we have to identify what is the anxiety that we're experiencing. Why am I experiencing? Is it because I'm feeling, isolated in my house because before I was used to being out with people? Or is it because I'm not used to working from home, and for me, this is really, really difficult? The other stress could be, hey, we might have to go back to work, and I'm not ready to do that because I'm afraid that somebody might have it. So all these things are coming back, and that's why we have to identify what it is and what it is not, and reach out to helpful assistance that's out there. Here are some resources that I want to post that's on the slide, and you guys will get this slide so you can see them all. Some of them, how to deal with children at home. We're looking at how to prevent it, videos and materials on it, lesson plans related to it. Our Center for Support, which is USF, that goes over a lot of criteria that talks about families, kids, what to do for kids that might be experiencing the same things you might be when it comes to anxiety and stress. So what are some of the things that's there? Going into SAMHSA website. So these are some of the resources that's there that I put out for you to look at. And as we transition now, if you have any questions, please ask them, and just open it up for discussion. So if you're there, Eileen, we can open it up now for any discussions or any comments that anyone might have. And I'm going to leave this up for everybody to see.
Okay. I unmuted Eileen.
Okay.
Eileen, did I miss anybody? Any suggestions? Let's see here. Melanie. Eileen, can we unmute Melanie? Yeah. We want to keep everybody else muted, but we want to unmute one at a time so that we aren't talking over each other.
Right.
Okay, Melanie.
Yeah, I noticed that somebody earlier had mentioned they feel guilty taking breaks when they're at home. And I know I myself have moments of guilt, like when I get up and go outside and take a short walk, whether it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just to give myself a break from screen time. Right. Or just working at home. It's a completely different process. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm making as much headway as I would be if I were in the office. Do you have any suggestions on how we can overcome that? Because I don't think that, I know in my head that I shouldn't feel guilty, although those little flickers of guilt do come in.
Right. So Eileen, when you say that, identify what's the guilt about. Is it, do I feel guilty because I'm feeling like I'm not doing my work, or I'm cheating my boss, or I'm just cheating myself from not doing it? Or is that just something that I've always kind of felt like I feel guilty if I'm not doing something? So I would say the first thing for anybody who might be experiencing that is understand what the guilt is about, and then understand, is the guilt realistic? Is it, because during this time, I believe one of the most important things we have to look at is reality-based thinking. So if I'm feeling guilty, why am I feeling guilty? And is this guilt that I'm feeling, is it realistic? And the other part to it is, you said it, it is real. It is there. It is something I'm experiencing, but because I'm feeling it doesn't mean that it is real. So that's the part too. And if I do get up to take a break, as you said, and go out for a walk, work on the fact of thinking it is okay. I need this. This is my part of self-care. That's the key thing in understanding how to dissipate feelings of guilt during this time, because you have to work on self-care. The other part that's realistic is that when you say I'm getting up to go for a few minutes, you're not going for the whole day. You're just taking that little bit of time that you need, because if you were in the office, I'm pretty sure you would do the same thing. And if you think about it, when you're in the office to get up to maybe go to the bathroom or go get something to drink, I'm pretty sure you're not feeling guilty about that. So you want to apply the same mindset as you're doing right now. And it is okay to get up for a break, to step back for a little while. The key thing for some people, truthfully, is that when they get up for a break to go, it's just making sure that they're not continuing in that distraction. So being able to come back to complete what's needed. But I don't think I hear that in what you're saying. It's just for you being able to help yourself realize that it is okay. And that's where you're going to have to do self-talk to tell yourself it is fine. I'm all right. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just getting up for a few minutes just to get away because it might be overwhelming right now and I need this time. That's self-care, and that's important. Did that help you? Did she hear me?
Hold on, I had her muted. Let me unmute her again. Okay.
Mel.
Yes, that helped. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Eileen, did I miss any others?
Just lots of comments.
Okay.
Somebody had a question, but they didn't have a mic.
Oh, Mary Ann.
Mary, yeah. So I asked her to type her question, and we'd be happy to read it. But I haven't seen her respond. So.
Okay.
Does she have a question?
We haven't seen it come through yet.
Okay.
She said it's been answered.
It's been answered. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's been answered. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Tracy, thank you. I think these the resources you provided are wonderful. I know so many of us just don't think about. We know we're stressed, but we aren't thinking about how it manifests itself. And so you walking us through all of these different manifestations, I think was really good information. Just even thinking about, our sleep and, heart racing and panic attacks and irritability, all of that. And just how we, like you said, we can't control what's going on, but we can certainly control our response to it. So that's so important.
Yes. The one thing I don't want people to think that they have anxiety disorder. Okay, because that's what going through this part, people can think, oh, I got it because I'm no. You remember there are symptoms that go along with this. And so just being able to pay attention to it, because believe it or not, we are all experiencing stress through this situation. We are.
Right.
And it's creating emotions and thoughts within us that's like, wait a minute, I didn't used to think like that. Why is this happening to me? So it's just us having a balance and being realistic in our thinking and how we are paying attention to us. If I'm having unexplained aches and pains, let me go back and pay attention, because if I was having them now, I might have been having them before, but I just never put them together with stress, because I thought maybe I got up and slept wrong, because that's one that we look at that goes along with stress. I'll tell you another big one is constipation. That when people don't realize that that's one of the correlations when we look at stress, that it can cause you to have that. And we wouldn't put that together with any type of anxiety or stress. Because first thing we're going to think, oh, I'm not eating, or I'm eating too hard. I'm not. And so these are the things we pay attention to during this time, because some of these things that we're seeing are directly involving stress. And now I need to put them together so they make sense to me.
Carlton, you look like you have a question
You know
Yeah.
it.
or a comment.
Hey, Carlton.
How you all
Starting
doing?
to know that look.
I know. I was looking at him. I seen him. I said, Carlton got something to say.
I know you can see me sitting there twitching. Okay. I know I'm not hiding it. I'm not hiding it. Okay. Look. These are really good, webinars. Is there? Because I've tried 3 times now to snatch the link and put it up to open up the PowerPoint, and the internet is doing its own thing, and we know why these days. There's so many people on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
If you need to really get something, you need to wait until 3 o'clock in the morning so you don't have any problems. But then you run into another 10,000 people at that moment.
At that
Okay,
time.
so
That's stress,
Archie,
Carlton.
if you could be so kind as to I don't know, send these links to us or put them in one solid place.
They are. They're all going to be on the website with the recordings,
Okay.
and it'll all be right there together. So if you go back to the AFC homepage, click on our webinar link, it'll bring you right to the box that has all of them listed. And as we go through each one, once you click on it, you can see the full recording and also get the PowerPoint.
I just posted the link in the chat.
No,
Eileen.
that's where I grabbed it from. And
Oh,
I'm trying right now to get it to open. I did it through Outlook. I've tried through Google, and I've also tried it through Firefox. And I'm getting one of these bogus pages.
Okay. Well, give it a little while and then try again, Carlton.
Okay.
Technology right now, we're all
Yeah.
we're all in the same boat together.
I just wait a minute,
But that's
Marsha.
where you'll be able.
Marsha, you're trying to steal my thunder. I just soapboxed on that.
No, but that's where you'll be able to find everything on our home web page, and certainly share it. We hope that you will.
Yeah. We try to maintain a certain amount of levity, because if this is going to be like this for a couple of months, and it's good. It's really good, because a lot of people, including myself, you need this kind of support. There's a lady that said something to the effect of, she's 71, I'm 67. And I mean, it is a great fear, and we need to face these fears and discuss them. Yes. Because, there are so many people, young and old, that live alone.
Right.
And I would imagine, I'm not a doctor, but it's all according to the severity or the level of how much, if you do contract this virus, how much it might or might not incapacitate you in your home.
Right.
We all pretty much need to have somebody checking on us, and we need to be checking on somebody too.
Yes. That's right, Carlton. Yeah.
So anyway.
And see, that's the part too, Carlton, that you hit on. That's another thing that people are really beginning to be, concerned about, and that is having loved ones that are in our ALFs and being in those kind of places like that, and we can't see them, we can't reach out and go. Right. And so this is one, actually, I just finished a webinar earlier, and that was a question that came up during it, is how do we deal with that? And then also, how do we deal with the fact that we have a loved one? Because I've had a few loved ones that are still sick from it, that's in the hospital, that are on ventilators. And how do we deal with that? Because that goes back into stress and anxiety. And so some of my tips, even with that, was to tell people, if you do have, grandparents or family members that are in any of the ALFs, reach out and contact the ALF, because you need to be talking with them to find out what type of treatment are they providing for your loved one that's in the center. How are they taking care of them? What are they doing? And when you talk to your loved one, not talking to them about them being there and the stuff that's going on in there, you don't want to talk about. You just want to talk with them as you normally do, but to help yourself decrease from the anxiety of them being in there, you want to be informed on what they are doing in there to keep your loved ones safe. Those are the things that we talk about to help us through this process, because it isn't very easy right now.
No.
Dealing with it from having a loved one who might have passed away, and now there was no service done. And I know in some places, in some situations, I've heard they have already cremated them, so you don't get a chance to even have that type of closure.
Right.
You know, and how are you dealing with that? Because this is a new, you know, this thing is totally new for all of us.
Oh yeah.
And being able to mentally process that, that's not something that you're just going to get over even after the corona is gone.
Exactly.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, folks are going to be looking to sue somebody. Come on, let's be real. Come on. And all that stuff goes along with the anxiety of not having that and losing control. That's why we're seeing people protesting against the government, because they feel as though their rights are being taken. But they're not realizing the dangerous part of being out there when now they get sick. Then all of a sudden they're creating a whole nother issue that can affect everybody that they come in contact with.
Right.
So all these things are balances that we have to understand during this time that can decrease our anxiety and our stress, and not cause another one I didn't hit on was not deal with the depression that this situation is causing some people.
Right.
So being able to balance through this is something that we all have to begin to understand and set it into realistic approaches. So that's important.
One last little thing.
Okay.
I grew up in New York City.
Right.
And you know, that's a serious example.
Yes.
Chicago, LA, the major cities with those huge populations.
Yes.
And where I'm going is this: what we do have something, unfortunately, to compare to that, and it's the fact that Florida is a retirement community.
Right. That's
so
right.
we have all of these seniors all over the place.
Yes.
And going back to something that you just did say, if they came here with a loved one and they were in their 70s and 80s, and maybe recently, and I mean before the virus, one of them passed.
Right.
Yes.
So that means that that person is there alone now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, in a lot of these retirement communities, these people will go on that property to a daycare, like at the clubhouse. Okay. But so many of them may not. But again, going back to the fact that my daddy, when he retired from New York, he went and built a house in Virginia, but eventually he came back home here.
Yeah.
So again, you know, we need to be on the lookout for that reality going into the future about people being left alone at home. I'm done. Thank you.
That's right. That's good. Yes.
Thank you, Carlton. Tracy Glidden. Tracy has a question.
Okay.
Hold on. Tracy, just unmute yourself.
Okay. So one of my biggest sources of stress right now isn't work related. It's actually my parents. I have my parents are in their 70s, and they are not adhering very well. And you know, I'm not the parent, but you know, I'm talking with my brother and my sister, and we're trying to strategize the best way to you know, encourage them to be safe. And I was just wondering if you might have some suggestions on ways that we can, you know, I mean, I want to be respectful, but of course I'm the only one that lives here where they live.
Okay.
My brother and sister are safely out of state.
Okay.
So they don't have to see them every day, but you know, they're going to the grocery store. My dad was planning a road trip to go visit everybody.
Right.
Yeah, Arkansas, Tennessee, Iowa, I know. And he got really upset with us for conspiring against him, you know, talking behind his back and saying, you know, trying to find ways to convince him to stay home.
Right.
And so I just wonder if anybody else is having that same issue, or if you've got any recommendations on how best to
See, that one, Tracy, is very difficult, because I'm pretty sure what's happening with them is the same thing that's happening with a lot of people that's in that age range, and that is, if I die, I just die. That's the mindset. So, you know what? You're going to die from something. I'm not going to let anything control my life. I'm going to keep living my life the way that it is. And that's the hard part for us as siblings, to be able to convey to them that we're not trying to tell you not to live your life. We're trying to help you understand how to live where you don't allow this to attack you. And being able to have that kind of conversation with them, I think, is at the heart of this. I would say one of the things is provide some type of literature that you can give them that maybe they may not read, but you can leave it sitting around that talks about their age range and how susceptible they are at actually contacting or contracting this virus. Have something like that. Leave something for them to read, because sometimes just by talking to them, they still might have that mindset that I'm the adult and you're the child, and you're not going to tell me what to do, especially if they're in that kind of mindset for the older ones. So I would provide some type of literature and give it to them, leave it there for them to possibly read, and then kind of go into it in that way with them, and then maybe discuss it with them and see what they say and how they think about that.
Yeah, and I mean, and we have talked about how, you know, like I was just saying, especially in regards to them taking a road trip, every place they stop along the way, they have a higher risk, and then they're going and staying at my sister's house where she's married to someone who has heart issues, and that he could put him at risk. And then my brother in Tennessee is a first responder, so talk about another high. But they're just and they do have that. Well, it's in God's hands. If I go, I go. But there's one. That's one thing to have that mentality. You know, like let's say during a hurricane, somebody decides they don't want to leave. It's going to affect them because they might die, or they might be harmed. But this is something that affects everybody, and I'm trying to explain to them it's so selfish to want to do that. But I mean, it's causing tension between us, and I mean, especially my dad. I mean, he is just like. He doesn't want to hear it.
And that's the part where I would provide literature. I would pull evidence-based factual literature on these resources that I have on here. You can pull up, because they do have information on here, like the one that you can see, how to prevent COVID. That's with kids. Go to the one, coping with stress during infectious disease outbreaks with SAMHSA. That's one. Or the www.cdc.gov. So I would pull out some information and center the conversation around that. Because one of the things I would say in dealing with this is not trying to debate the morality of death with them, because pretty sure right now that's not what his thinking is. His thinking is, I'm not going to let anything control me. I'm this age, and you know what? I'm going to keep living my life. If it happens, it happens. So, I'm not letting nobody tell me what to do. That's the mindset of people right now. And the only way to be able to combat that is to have, evidence-based literature that you can give that can back up what you're trying to help them understand. And that's a part of it. Talking about the importance of, just like you said, you're not going to be just affecting you. If you do it, you're going to be affecting other people. And I'm not here to try to tell you what to do, but I am here to help you understand that I don't think that it is good, and try to break in some conversations like that. But I would say in that literature would probably be the best route to kind of go with them with.
And Tracy, this is Jackie. I noticed that Marcia Kiner had posted something, because Tracy Glidden, I face these same situations, and I'm hearing it a lot. It's like, it seems like our seniors are just like teenagers. It really feels this way. But Marcia Kiner had said that she told her mom, if you get it, you're by yourself in the hospital, and it really sobered her up. So, doing all the wonderful, nice, kind things that Tracy Daniels tells us, but then sometimes it's like you said, here are the facts. You will legit be alone in a really scary place that is understaffed, potentially lower supplies than normal. Is the barbecue worth it, Mom? Yeah.
And see, that's why you provide the literature. So now you can speak on that part, because in the NASP COVID-19 Resource Center, they have some videos. And so that's the reason why you present some of these things to them, because you're right. You need to let them know the reality of it. And for some of them, they're like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And that makes it hard. It does. That's a very good question.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Other Eileen, am I missing anything? I don't see.
Not any questions. It's all just comments, really.
Comments. Okay. All right. Well, then, if there aren't any other questions, I want to thank Baycare, Tracy Daniels, as
Yes, thank you, Marsha.
once again for facilitating a wonderful, and resource-filled session for us. Jackie and Johanna, I don't know if John is out there. I can't see in my little feed here, but thank you all from Baycare. Again, our second webinar that you all have facilitated for us, and just as good as the first, if not better, from my perspective. Let's see, let me open up this. Michael Brower, are you out there? I thought I saw him in the feed a little earlier.
He's offline now.
Okay, all right, I didn't want to close down without giving him an opportunity to say something. So we have a third Baycare webinar coming up. Oh, let's see, y'all. Is it next Thursday? Next Thursday morning at 11.
Oh, Jackie has her hand up.
Oh, Jackie.
Oh, accidentally turned your hand
up. That was
up.
old
Okay.
from the whole senior citizen thing.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Oh no, I was just saying I raised my hand about when we were talking about our blessed, seniors.
Seniors.
Ah! but since I am unmuted, Tracy, if you can pop a couple slides up, if you want to bring Tracy to your college virtually, of course, give us a buzz. We are have been doing similar type of webinars for students and faculty and staff at our partner organizations. But even if you aren't currently with Baycare, we're more than happy to do the same for y'all. So just give us a buzz. If Marcia and the AFC team can help you get in contact with us. And just if you ever need any support for your students or your employees, let us know. We're here for you.